Hey folks, in my previous video we proved the law of sines, and in this short video we're going to do two examples. One where we do the law of sines to find a side length, and then a different one where we use the law of sines to find an angle measure. So here's our first example where we're finding the side length, and I've got our law of sines up here for us to reference. And then the first thing we need to know is that to do law of sines, I need one of these, what I call kind of these pairs. I need an angle measure, and I need to know the side length across from it. I need an angle measure and the side length across from it. So look right here, I have two angle measures, but I don't have the side across from this angle, and I don't have the side across from this angle. And here I know this side, but I don't know the angle measure across from it. Well, what we got to do here is recognize that in our triangle, we know my triangle is going to have a sum of 180 degrees. So if I know these two angle measures, I can subtract from 180 and find that this angle measure is 29 degrees. And so what we can do here is we can set up one of these relationships. I know that the sine of B over B equals, and this says find side AB, which is this side. We're just going to call that C, because a lot of times you'll see that if this is angle C, the side across from it would be side C. So that's going to be equal to the sine of C over C. And then the sine of A over A, I mean, it's part of the law of sines, but it doesn't really help us here because we're not looking for this side length right here. So let's just fill in what we know. This is going to be the sine of a 29-degree angle over 16, which is the side length of B, and that's going to be equal to the sine of 57 over C, which we don't know. Now from here, look, we've got an equation. There's only this one variable, and we can solve this however we want. I can cross multiply maybe. C times the sine of 29 equals 16 times the sine of 57. And then lastly, I'm going to divide by the sine of 29 on each side. So sine of 57 over the sine of 29. And once I do my calculator button push with that, we're going to find that side C equals roughly 27.68. And if we wanted to, we could repeat those steps to find this side length if we wanted to, but that's your first example on how to use the law of sines to find a side length. Now, let's learn how to do our second example where we use the law of sines to find an angle measure. So we see in this problem, they give us all three sides and one angle, but we're looking for angle C here. And so what we're going to choose to do is in my relationship, do I want to use, sine A over A, sine B over B, or sine C over C? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use sine A over A because this is where I have one of those pairs that I'm referring to. See, I have an angle and the side length across from it. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to use sine of A over A, and we're looking for angle C, right? So I'm going to do sine of C over C. Kind of this side length, this 3.8 is kind of irrelevant information for us here. I'm not looking for angle B, so I don't really care about side B in this particular situation. So let's fill in what we know. I know that that's going to be the sine of 135 over 13.26 equals the sine of C, which is what we're solving for, over side C, which is 10.3. Now, once again, I'm going to cross multiply real quick to solve. So sine of 135 times 10.3 equals sine of C times 13.26. And then from here, we're trying to solve for sine of C. So I'm going to divide by 13.26 on each side. And we're going to find that sine of C is equal to stuff over 13.26. And if I were to do a calculator button push with all that amount, we're going to find that the sine of angle C is about 0.549, and I'm sure I did some rounding when I did my math earlier. Now, if we know that the sine of C equals 0.549, all we have to do is do sine inverse. If I do sine inverse of 0.549, and I'm going to get my answer in degrees, so make sure your calculator's in degree mode, but once I do those button pushes, I'm going to get roughly 33.30 degrees. So that's how you can use the law of sines to find an angle. The end.